It's Friday, and we are back for Feedback Friday. And today we're going to teach you a compositional balance technique. And we're also going to review 6 different paintings and see if we can make them better. Let's look at the paintings we're going to give feedback about right now. And what I want you to do is when you look at these, I want you to say, here's what I would do. What could I do to make these stronger paintings? And by the way, some of these are so strong, I'm not so sure we can improve them. Let's find out. When you see these paintings, you're going to look at them and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to see problems that I can fix, or maybe little touch-ups that I can make to make these paintings better. And it's easier to look at other people's paintings because when your own painting is being critiqued, you're like, it's a little hard for you to take it, right? So sometimes you're going to learn from this. So that's what we want you to do. We're going to watch critiques and show you what we can do, give you some feedback so that we can make this better. Now, for me, it's a lot easier to look at other people's paintings because I'm defensive, I'm making excuses, I'm trying not to look bad to myself. And I tell myself, well, I knew that, but you're going to see more clearly through the eyes of others. So we're going to get this show started.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhoads.
Welcome to Art School Live. Today is Feedback Friday, and we are here every weekday at 12 noon, and we've been here since COVID began, way, way, way back. It seems like what was that, 2020. And so we have stuck with it, been here, and we're giving you free art lessons every day, art marketing guidance on Mondays, feedback on Fridays, and we have a lot of guest artists. So make sure that you are a part of this. If you're brand new, we hope that you'll go ahead and give us a subscription. That would be nice. Just go on and subscribe. As the publisher of art magazines and newsletters, and frequently a competition judge, an artist coach, a marketing expert, etc., plus a couple of decades of painting, I tend to see some things that I would like to improve and help other people improve their painting. So we're going to try. Here are my rules. Always be kind. Don't be nasty. Don't be mean. You don't want to be that guy that's like, you suck. No, we don't want to do that. Maybe I shouldn't say that word. I hope YouTube doesn't stop me from using it. Anyway, be constructive. Maybe we'll put a little beep over it. Beep. All right. Be constructive always. If you tear into somebody else, you can destroy them with your words, and we don't want people to give up. Everybody's at a different stage. You might look at a painting and go, oh, that one really isn't very good. Well, just give the people a break, right? You were there, right? And some of them are going to be so good, you're going to be blown away and like, I don't know if there's anything that could be changed by it. And sometimes there isn't, right? Sometimes it's guesswork. So anyway, I couldn't paint. I did not have what I thought was natural talent. And I convinced myself that I didn't have what it takes. So don't do that to yourself. Don't play these head games. You can do this. You can succeed. We can teach anybody to paint. You just need to get some great teachers, some great practice. Watch 5 of our programs about painting, and you're going to get better. And just keep at it. Watch as many as you possibly can. We have hundreds and hundreds of them that we've created. And it's hard to believe we've created that many, but we have everything from watercolor to oil to drawing to you name it. We've done it. So remember, even the bad days of painting are fun if you're drawing and painting. So nothing here is going to be personal, folks. Everything is an opinion, and I am not here to hurt. I'm here to help. My goal is to always find something nice to say at the start of every painting. And I cannot read your comments while I'm looking at paintings and critiquing them, but I want you to go in there, tell me where you're watching from. And I want you to go into the comments and say, here's what I see that I like. And here's what I see that I would change. And then let's see if we agree on that stuff, okay? All right. So if you want to submit your paintings, just go to streamlinepublishing.com/feedback-Friday. Make sure you don't forget the dash, feedback-Friday. And if you make changes after hearing my suggestions, make sure you email us an after so we can look at it and see if we can make it better. You ready? Are you ready? Okay, let's pull up the first one. All right, so let's go to the black and white, pull the black and white up, and let's start by looking at the black and white. The black and white allows us to see values, allows us to see the composition a little bit more clearly, and it kind of eliminates the influence of color. And so that's a great thing to do, is to look at your paintings in black and white, take a picture of them and look at them in black and white. The first thing I ask myself is, where's the darkest dark? And I see this being the darkest dark. There's a little dark here and a little dark here. And what we want to do is have our darks recede. So we want to have kind of a dark far forward and have them get a little less dark as we go in the distance. That creates a sense of distance. You're fooling the eye. And I do like to have a good dark. If my focal point were here, I want to have a dark here, a high contrast, and a sharp edge. And that is a really good thing to do. So let's look at this and see what we see. The first thing that's coming to mind is I see stripes. I see 3 vertical stripes. Do you see them? One vertical stripe is right here. One vertical stripe is right here. And the one in the middle is a vertical stripe. So you've got, these are equidistant. And as a result, it's drawing the eye in an odd way. So how would you eliminate that? Well, one of the things you could do is you could just move this one tree over a little bit so it's a little bit uneven. You're not making these the same. So this tree could be a lot wider, or it could be a lot skinnier. Probably a lot skinnier would be better. But just by moving it over will help it considerably. And then maybe, maybe making that tree a little less dark. So that's going to help it a little bit. But really, you've got these 2 verticals side by side, and I don't think that works. And so I would probably just look for a way to eliminate this other tree entirely, because it's not necessarily adding anything. As a matter of fact, it opens it up. Now, the other thing that I'm seeing is that there's a whole lot of house, and I don't know where the eye should go. So this area here over on the side, the right side over here, is kind of like drawing the eye. And I don't know, it's supposed to be in shadow, but it's not in a lot of shadow. It's kind of half shadow or partial shadow. So I think what we would do at this is we would look at it and say, maybe we would add a nice dark shadow up here, maybe even a darker point here. Maybe we could put this in shade in here and strengthen this tree. Maybe try to figure out how to create a focal point. So maybe we slam the light all the way down to this porch, maybe hide this back a little bit. So let's just play with that. Let's go to the color version and see what color does for us. First off, this is really a pretty painting, but I would ask myself, lights tend to be a little bit yellow, and you've got a little yellow in your light here. This is pure white, which is a little cool. So I'm going to just play the game that I talked about and see what I can do to change this. And so I now have, let's say, a foreground shadow, and I'm just going to try to make this a big shadow shape up in front. It doesn't have to be exact, and this, this needs to be a little bit transparent in an actual painting. And so you incorporate a little of that other color into it. It's hard to do transparency in this particular environment, but maybe just create a little sense of transparency there. Now, having that shadow there helps a lot. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bush or something in here and just kind of create a nice dark. And that dark, in theory, if it was the darkest dark, would read like the darkest dark, so the other darks go back. Now, I'm going to look at this house and say, instead of eliminating that tree, first off, I'm going to darken this tree. See if I can, I'm going to create, trees tend to be silhouette-y. That probably is a little bit too dark, but let's see if we can darken this tree a little bit so that we create a little bit more contrast where the tree is. And the tree is getting a lot of light, and it's kind of flat, and it's kind of hard to tell where that light is coming from. And so right now we're just kind of playing with that. And I think what I'm going to do is take this area over here and play with some blue, because a white house in shade is kind of blue or bluish gray. So we'll try to pick a color. And right now I'm just going to take this, and I'm not worrying about windows right now, so forgive me. I'm just going to take this and the whole tree, and I'm going to just put this in shade. That box, everything, I'm just going to put it in shade, because what I want to do is bring attention to the house. Now, there was an edge of the house that was in a darker value, so I probably put that edge of the house in there. And then I'm going to take something, some foliage or something, and I'm just going to put a couple of things in here because I don't want to draw a lot of attention to it. So what I need to do is pick up a color and get something in here, because I really that's going to be in the background. And then what I'm going to do is probably lighten up this dark corner just a little bit, maybe blue it up. Okay, so I blew that. Now it makes it recede just a little bit. It's still a little dark. Maybe we just make it a little lighter in here. And I'm going to take this blue that we used for the shadow, and I'm going to put that underneath the eaves of the house in both places. Okay, and maybe underneath the garage here. And I think what we should do is, just for fun, let's see if we can make this house, I think we'll make it just a little bit lighter blue, so that the eaves is stronger. And let's figure out how to slam this with light. So maybe we're going to take all of this and put this in shade, and then maybe a little part of this in shade. And we're going to put this whole garage thing in shade. And then we're going to take the light and really exaggerate the light. Now, this is something I like to do. You may not like it, and this is a preference thing. So light is almost white, but it's got a little yellow in it, right? And so I'm just going to take that. I'm going to not worry about that window right now. I'm going to put a little of that light into these areas here and just try to figure out how to really create a sense of light, like the light is really hitting this stuff. Maybe we put a little orange light roof in here to try to create a sense of light, and maybe a little bit on that over there. Although I think what we'll do is we just create some more weeds. Those are a little dark, but create some weeds and hide that back there, because it's just kind of drawing attention. So just by doing this, what we've done is we've created a focal point. This is like saying, hey, this is what I would do. Now, the other thing I would probably do, if I were just really, really focusing on this, I would probably crop this right about here, and I would just get rid of all of this, right? Because it's just taking a lot of space, and it already makes the painting stronger, because now the painting is about this edge of the house and the corner of the house, and you don't have all that extra stuff showing. I'd probably also take this color up here, put it up here, maybe put a little shaded red in there, and maybe slam some light on that brick, right? Probably a little bit more light on that brick, and then put some darker brick over in here. And then of course you would have to adjust your windows and everything, because you want to have the light on the windows. And you could, if you wanted to create a little bit more of a focal point, you could take some creative license and maybe make a red door, some things like that. So you have some options, and that way you can really play with it and have some fun. Just because it shows a certain way doesn't mean that's what you want to do. You want to use artistic license. And by having that second tree gone, this just strengthens it. These things over here, that's probably, I'd work on that a little bit. And the other thing, if you're in a light sky like what I'm trying to produce here, is I'd probably come up with a really light-filled sky, something that really reads like there's a lot of light. And you might want to put some variation in it, but the idea is just really create a sense of light. Now that really reads like light. Okay, we're going to go on to the next one. What's next? Oh, the flowers. This is so really beautiful. We're going to start out with black and white. Okay, now again, we go through the same process in the black and white. This flower is really beautifully executed, and the leaves, whoever did this, it's DR from Colorado. All right, DR. It's stunningly beautiful. I can't find much wrong with it. I can find a little tiny thing here and there that I would do, but it's really, really beautiful. Let's look at it from a standpoint of composition as a starting point, and let's go dead center. And dead center, we're cool. We don't have anything. We got a black spot dead center, but that doesn't bother me. And then let's look at what else. We can look at our regular composition and we can say, okay, we have really pretty much nailed it. I mean, that kind of is in the compositional spot. Maybe it moves over a little bit, but you've got a really good, strong primary composition point. The thing that is, I think your values are spot on. I think it's really good. Everything is really perfect in this. And the only thing that I think is there's a lot of busyness. And a lot of that busyness is caused because you've got sharp edges everywhere. You think about it, sharp edges everywhere. Sharp edges, almost every edge is sharp. And what's happening is you got all these sharp edges in here. And what's happening is your eye doesn't know exactly where to go. So sometimes you want to simplify. So we're going to pull up a color version of this. And it really is beautiful in color. It's just stunning. And I want my eye to go over into this area. So everything that isn't in this area, you might want to consider, could I soften up these leaves a little bit? You know, could I maybe reduce some of the light that's on some of this over here? Let me see if I can figure out a way to do that. Let's say maybe I just reduced some of this bright light on some of these other areas outside of here. We just reduce the light down a little bit, and that's going to kind of draw my eye in here. I take this shadow that's in here and maybe put that shadow on this stuff over here, because I don't want too much stuff drawing the eye over in here. The other thing I would do is I would just soften these edges a little bit more. So maybe I can get a little bit softer in here. Just look for ways to soften things up a little bit. And I would even go into this flower and soften up the edges in the flower a little bit. But I did something that I just wanted to play with, and let me just show you. First off, I feel like this is a little bit cramped. It's cramping my style. It's making me feel uncomfortable because there's no air in here. It's like everything is starting here, and there's no sense of balance. And we're going to talk about balance later. And so I just feel like we need to create some air. So there's a couple of options on this. One is to flip it around and see if that makes a difference. And no, I don't know. I don't think it makes it any stronger. And this kind of makes this the focal point. It's kind of where you enter. So that doesn't work, but you can play with ideas like this. What I did is I went into this and I created a black space in here just to give it a little bit of air. And I think that really made the difference. Now you can see that I went into this and I darkened some of this stuff. I softened it. Now I've done this exaggerated. I even softened some of the lines in here because this is where my eye wants to go with all the sharpness. If you don't want the eye to go in here, then you want the eye to go into this flower, and that's where you keep the sharpness. But if you have sharpness everywhere, the eye doesn't know where to go. This is such a stunning painting. I don't know if there's much I would do, but the one thing I would do, if nothing else, is I would get that space in here just a little bit aired out, and I think that'll make a difference. What's next? Oh, I'm so excited. This is so much fun. Okay, we have a scene of a little girl and a dog, and it's a farm scene, and this is by Tony Sherman in Texas. All right, Tony, congratulations on this. I think this is really, really cute. It's a little bit sweet for my taste, and that's okay though. I mean, everybody's got something. And I think that everything is a little bit in focus. I think you need to work on some edges and things, but let's look at composition first. First off, you've got your tic-tac-toe composition, and your barn is not really in the sweet spot. Your girl is in the sweet spot, and her eyeball is right there in the sweet spot. So big red star for you. Congratulations. That's a really good thing. And you've got her. She clearly is the focal point of the painting. And you've got a lot going on here. Let's check the center, and the dead center is there's nothing really there except the edge of that barn, and that's not a problem. The very first thing I noticed was this angled thing. Now, angles draw the eye. You got an angle here, and you got an angle here. You got an angle here, and this one just felt a little bit like, maybe it's what you saw in your photo or something, but it felt a little bit like it. I felt like it was going to fall on the little girl. That's the first thing, is it falling? So you might think about, what could you do to correct that? I'm not sure what the answer is to that. Now, the other thing is, you've done a really nice job on this, but the face, I think the face could use just a little bit of softening. Maybe you don't need a lot of detail on that face, because you don't need to be too exact to show it. So that's something to consider. The other thing I notice is, first off, where's your darkest dark? And the darkest dark in this particular painting is her dress and her hair. And that's exactly correct as far as I'm concerned. We got a big dark back here, and that's in a receded area. So I would lighten that up a little bit. And these things back here are pretty dark, and they're fighting with this. So I would consider doing that. The other thing is, there's a lot of what I call busy work in here. And so there's a lot of texture on here. There's a lot of texture on here, a lot of texture everywhere, and a lot of texture on these trees. And you got all this detail on the barn. It's like your eye doesn't know where to rest. Now, the sky gives me rest, right? So I like the rest up there. I'm going to rest Z. Well, let's go to the color version of this and see what happens. All right. So again, the color just, you've done some really good stuff here. Let's just see if we can de-busy this a little bit. I think compositionally you're in the right place. I think, you know, because of her body and her eyes and everything, I think it's the right place. But you know, let's see if we can just lighten this up just a little bit. This first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the sky and just make the sky a little bit simpler. And you've got all that beauty in that sky, but it's really drawing the eye. And I think if we can simplify the sky just a little bit, it's really going to help, because the sky gives us some rest, and we can just give a little bit of rest in the sky, and I think it's going to help. Did a nice job of warm in one side and cool in the other, and that's good. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's simplify this grass. You know, it's going to be sharp when it's up front, like here, and maybe you're showing the blades of grass, but you don't need to show every blade of grass back in here. You know, it's blades of grass. And so I think what I would probably do is look for a way to simplify some of this. And so I'm going to use my tool here and just kind of make this stuff kind of go back. Now, one thing I do when I paint is I use a King's blue, and I always put a little stripe of King's blue towards the back. I learned that from 𝗙𝗿𝗶𝗱𝗆. And that may not be, that looks a little bit too blue. But what it does is it just helps the thing recede. Now you can put some green over it and just some color over it. It just helps it feel like, oh, it's going back. But I would just kind of take all of this stuff in here and just say, okay, let's simplify it, right? You don't need to show all that detail. And what happens just by, I can already see it happening, just by simplifying all this stuff, what's happening is it's making the little girl stand out. And it's just making it so much simpler. I would even simplify this lake. You know, you've got a lot going on here. You got a little dock, you got a little bird, you got a lot of stuff. I would probably also blue up these trees, not blow up the trees, but blue up the trees. And we'd have to kind of find the right tone, the right color to make these trees a little bluer. Maybe we need a little bluer green. But what I usually do is I take my trees and I make them kind of purple, and I make a big solid shape. You've got a lot of trees right here that are the exact same shape, and so you want to kind of vary that. So let's just kind of make it, you know, so that we've got some different shapes going on here, so that we're not making everything look exactly the same. We probably can blue these back. And then what happens is you get this big solid shape in here, and now you can lay some greens down over it and maybe some bluish greens. And what happens is you just don't need much, and you get the sense that something's going on back there. You know there's some light hitting it, but it's now, see how that recedes? And that just helps it tremendously. And again, I think we take this house and we simplify the house just a little bit. I know you put all this time and effort into it, but just, you don't have to put every line in. If you put a couple of lines in here and there, it just helps things. Remember, the roof of something is at an angle, so it's catching, it's not, the highest light is being caught down here, and the next highest light is the roof, and then the sky is the highest, is going to be a higher light. So just see, excuse me, how we simplify this. Now, if your little girl just stands out, you've got all this weed work and everything in here. You can put some of it in, but you don't need all of it. Now, just by having that, it helps out. Now, I would probably reduce some of the texture on her. You don't have to put every dot in. Excuse me. All right, I had to get water. And now the other thing that you want, okay, so you don't have to put every piece of that in, but that simplifies it again. The other thing is we need a little form on her, right? So we need to find a color that's going to work, that's going to give us a little bit of form, a little bit of, maybe a little bit of brown or something, just to create a little bit more form in her face. And I'm not sure where the light source is. You know, it could be coming from here, could be coming from another direction, but I would just try to get a little bit of form and maybe just a slight bit of color in that face, and in her arms and so on, and then just kind of finesse that. You don't have to have a whole lot of detail in there. That's gonna do this a little bit better. Now, I would probably kind of make this go a little bit greener in some of these areas. And then, you know, when you start putting, all this white is drawing the eye. That's snow, I assume. But I'm like, why is there snow and she's in a short sleeve shirt? So be careful about things like that, because people notice stuff like that. So get some of this filled in where you want it to be, keep it fairly solid. And then you can put your details. There's a trick. It's where dark meets light. So you could have right here, you could put a few little things in here right against that light, and it reads. You don't have to put every little thing in, but you're going, oh, there's a couple of pieces here. If you put every little thing everywhere, you're going to draw the eye everywhere. The other thing is, remember, in lakes, they tend to reflect what's in the sky, and it's nice to put a little, I don't know if you need that dock there, maybe put a little blue in there. And so that changes it quite a bit. I would probably also look to darken this corner. There's a concept. It's like dark, light, light, dark, right? So you make your corners light and dark, dark and light. Now, you don't have to do that, but you can do it if you want to. So this one, maybe this one's a little bit lighter. This one over here is a little bit darker. And so that just gives a little variety in things, and that might help you. Anyway, I'm not so sure this is the right thing to do. I might even take the angle of this river and bring it in a little bit, just to kind of make it feel like it's going back there. And just a little finessing like that can make all the difference in the world. Now that river is kind of going beside the house, and that helps you with that sense of distance. So, and as far as the bird goes, she's looking at that bird, and so you have to ask yourself, do you want that bird to be a focal point? Is that all that important to you? And if it is, keep it there. But again, what I would do is look at, how can I soften all my edges, right? So you want to just, not everything needs to be sharp. And so look for a way that you can soften edges on some of these things. Now, I've completely screwed up the bird, but you know, just, I don't know that it helps, quite frankly, to have him there. But anyway, good job. Nice job on this. Okay, what's next? Oh, this one is absolutely amazing. This is from Brenda Tustian in Georgia. Brenda, I got to tell you something. It's once in a while I see something that blows me away. This is A+++. So yay, Brenda, you did a really good job. And I'm having a hard time finding anything wrong with it, but let's see what we can do. First off, let's say it's hard to tell in the black and white because this in the black and white, this is really very, very high key, very light. The whole thing is very high key. And that's okay because every painting you need to decide, is it high key or is it low key? You've done a really good job with contrast, darks against lights, and that is good. And that really makes a difference to make this stand out. Compositionally, not much dead center. I think that works. If you look at this from your equal thirds, okay, you got a flower here. I think you've got a flower here. We'll see in the color version, and a flower here and no flower here. So that's okay. The question is, which one do you want me to look at the most? And that's something we'll see once we get to the black and white. I would say that you've done some pretty good edge work. I would say that there's a couple of places like down in here where maybe we can soften some of these edges, break them up just a little bit, because everything has got sharp edges. Not everything, but a lot of them. So if we can look at maybe taking some of these edges, especially things that are distant, and soften them up a little bit and just make them kind of recede, maybe make them go into the darks a little bit. That's going to help you a lot. But let's look at the color version because this is such a lovely painting. I would love to have this painting on my wall. It's really beautiful. Okay, so where does the eye go first? It's interesting, when we brought up the color, my eye went here. Okay, you can't see that because my red, I had the wrong tool on. My eye went here, right? And why did it go there? It's because it had the most color, the most chroma, and it had a sharp edge with white. And the next place my eye went was here, which is a pretty good focal point. So again, if we do the equal thirds, you know, this is probably a pretty good focal point right there. And so I would probably move this one up just a little bit so it's closer to that focal point, because it's a little close to the bottom, but not, you know, it's not egregious. And I think that, again, I would look for sharpening some, lightening some of these edges. You know, there's a thing where you can kind of take an edge and go soft, hard, and that way soft, hard, soft, hard, soft, hard, and then it'll just make things a little bit more interesting. And then I would ask myself, would I need a really good spot of chroma somewhere? This is very delicate and very beautiful, and I don't think I would mess with it much, but you might want to ask yourself, and this is going to be extreme, so forgive me for doing this, but you might just say, okay, if this is where I want the eye to go, can I just really enhance the colors in this one spot? And all of a sudden your eye is going to go there, especially if you reduce this one down. Your eye is going to go in here because the eye tends to go where there's the most chroma. And then I'd put a really good strong dark in here, right? And maybe a little bit of this purplish color just in here. So you want to kind of create some definition. And again, this is probably a little bit weird, but you know, you soften this stuff up and you get these colors in here, you create a little bit more form in here, and I think it helps. But everybody's going to be critical of this, of me saying this, because it's so good. Now, the other thing I'm noticing is careful where you lead the eye out. You're leading the eye out here with this branch. Excuse me. You're leading the eye out here. You're leading the eye out here. So this is a place you can soften things up, and this is nice in here. This one might take that away. You might be leading the eye out. I love how soft that one is. And so really this is stunning. And see all these little white spots? They're just drawing my eye in here. But this is being picky. I mean, again, this is an A++ painting. So good job on that. Congratulations. All right, what do we have next? We have a cactus. And this cactus is from Allison Johnson in Massachusetts. Allison, good job on that. We're going to take a look at it. And I see a couple of things, but I think, overall, you've done a really good job on here. The question I have is, where do you want the eye to go? And where's your darkest dark? Where's your lightest light? So ask yourself that question. And so let's play compositional games first here. Dead center, well, nothing really drawing the eye there. So I think that's good. If you'd use the equal thirds method, okay, equal thirds, you would have some focal point in one of these 4 areas. And this is kind of what seems to be the focal point, but it may be different in the color because the dark is drawing my eye, the light can also draw your eye. It's where you have the most contrast that typically draws the eye. So you might want to move this one down a little bit so that it's in that focal point area. I would soften this edge back here and look at your darks and your lights. One thing that's kind of taken my attention is you got all this busy stuff in here. And maybe if you just soften this stuff back a little bit, I can't tell where the light's coming from. And that's an important thing in a painting. I think it's coming from here, and that would be a nice bright edge here and here. And I think you've got that. But you want to make sure that you darken the backs of the edges so that you can have some reflected light in there, but you want to just make sure. Also, you've got good contrast, good darks in here. If you want this white one to stand out, then darken that. If you want this dark one to stand out, then lighten that a little bit. Let's look at the color version though. All right. So this is really nice. I don't know. Looks like this is in rocks or something. So now what's happening is my eye is going to the light. That seems to be what's happening in the color version. So again, I would probably take this dark and get this dark around this a little bit more. Try to figure out a way to really enhance that. See how that dark just makes that stand out. And I would even look for a way to take some of this shadow color and get some shadow down in here so that, again, we're just looking for a way to make that dark stand out. That's going to make a big difference. This light on this branch is kind of fighting it. And then you want to really look for, what can I do to really pump this up and really enhance it? Maybe that's a little bit extreme. I tend to, sometimes in the iPad, I tend to pick garish colors to make a point. But the idea is look for something that's really going to emphasize the lights in this and really make that your star. And then you can get some good colors along these edges, right? And that alone is going to help it quite a bit, but especially if you put your emphasis on here. And then the other thing is that these rocks, this, I can't tell what this is. It's kind of half light and half dark. And so these rocks in here, I find them to be terribly distracting. And they may be there, but that doesn't mean they have to be there. So, you can go back in here and you can say, okay, I'm just going to soften this stuff up. And it doesn't have to be described everywhere. Even if you have rocks, they don't have to be described. You've done a pretty good job in the background of not describing them. Maybe you just kind of make it be half described and you put a couple of rocks in the front. Make sure you have things overlapping so they're not too side by side. And I think you've done a pretty good job of that. Just by doing that, I don't know what this dark in here is. It might be shadow. So, you can continue that on. So just look for a way that you can enhance where you want the eye to go, right? And so if you can get the eye to go, wherever you want it to be to highlight this particular cacti, I think that'll be helpful. You don't want it going everywhere. You could have a little bit of light, but you want your primary light to be in here on this particular cactus, if that's the case. I like the angle. I might change the composition a little bit, but I think, I'm not sure how I would. I might move this one over here and then move this one over here, and I'd have Mickey Mouse. No, just kidding. Anyway, I don't know. And also, what's back here? Is this sky, or is it's kind of hard to tell what it is. But so you might just ask yourself, what would send a signal that it is something, what would be complementary to green? Because you got a lot of green. Well, it might be red. So you could have a pink sky, or you could have a pink and blue sky, so you could make this kind of pink and blue, make it feel like it's standing out. And I like the high horizon in here. I think that's fine. But overall, what you want to do is figure out how I can lead the eye in, how you can take the eye up, and then how do you circulate it back down into here. Okay, I can't tell you that I did a great job on that one. I'm sorry, but I had a little hard time with it. Okay, what do we have next? We have this beautiful, beautiful mountainscape. Okay, so the question I always ask myself is, I often ask myself, is this a dark composition or a light composition? To me, it's a dark composition. It feels very dark to me, and that may be the intent. And you've got mostly dark, I'd say 80% dark, and then you've got spots of light. Oh, excuse me. So I think let's do compositional first. Okay, we got right smack down, we got a horizon line right down the middle, and that's creating a little bit of a visual composition problem. Nothing specifically in the center. You got a little spot right there, but nothing in the center. But I would look for a way I could either make this a sky painting and make your composition down here, or I would make this a mountain painting and make your sky up here. And that way you take this and it's going to change the nature of your composition. Now, the other thing is, where's your darkest dark? Darkest dark is here and here. And the way you find that out is to squint and look at these darkest darks. So you've got darks in a lot of places, and it's a very dark painting, but your eye doesn't know where to go. And then where's your lightest light? Well, your lightest light is here, so I'm assuming this is where you want to take the composition. But let's look at the color version and see what we can learn from it. All right. Now the color version, definitely that's where my eye is going. And it's kind of hard to tell, again, light source, but I assume the light source is coming from here and going in that direction. And so it feels to me like there's a lot of black in this. And black is something that is very controversial with a lot of artists because some artists feel as though it just dominates. And I find that if I make my blacks out of other colors, it doesn't get so black dominant or acidic. And so those colors are typically making it with an ultramarine blue, oftentimes a transparent red oxide, and then a little bit of another color, usually a red or something. And it creates a nice rich black. And but it's a chromatic kind of feel. But this feels pretty black to me in these areas. And if you're out there, these things don't really look black. They look probably, shadows typically are bluish tones, right? And I know this is extreme, but you've got some bluish tones that will help. Now, the other thing is I just thought of this, and that is, where are your big shapes, right? So get your big shapes in, right? And you've got a bunch of big shapes. So your big shadow shapes, where are your big shadow shapes? And then where are your light shapes? And so your light shapes, I'm going to undo this so you don't think I'm destroying your painting, but your light shapes are then going to be this area here, this area here, these areas back in here, maybe a couple spots up in here. And so lay out with your big shapes first. And then when you go into purples or greens with purples, what you can do is you know, you get these big shapes in here, you can put some texture in, and you can put some little spots of light in, not that light. Just get some little spots of light in to emphasize where you're trying to send the light. And you want it to recede, so you want that light to be a little lighter and ideally a little bit bluer as it goes back. That's a little bit too much. It's always, you know, just trying things out so that they read properly. And then if you want to put a big, you know, big bright spot in here, okay, that's probably more of what would go back there. And then, you know, maybe this is a little bit yellower in here. But the question is, and the other thing is look for blues in the recession, right? So you've got some blue in here, but I would just blue this up a little bit more in here. And I'd look for ways to make this, you know, maybe make that mountain a little more pronounced or put some other mountains behind it. And so, no, let's go back to it now. I'm going to undo all of this and see what we can see and what we can fix. So anyway, I think, you know, think about the blacks and think about the busyness. I think that where your intention was, you've got some color in here, but it's kind of hard to see the color because it's a little muted. So where do you want the eye to go? You want the eye to go here, here, or here, or here, or here. Pick a spot. So I would think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. You're either trying to show these trails over in here, but what I would want to do is kind of take the eye. Let's see, let me take this stuff out. I would try to figure out how to take the eye in this direction, and you've done a pretty good job with this little road or something here. You take the eye over here, and then you want to take the eye over here and take them back into here, and then maybe take them up into the clouds, right? And then maybe bring them back down somehow. And so you've got to ask yourself, how can I do that? And so you might pick up some of these lighter shades, and, you know, maybe figure out how to get some of these lighter shades, a trail or something, pump up your light in one spot, and then figure out how to bring it back here, lighter and bluer, and then all the way back into here, and it's bluer still. And then maybe you can figure out how to do some kind of a cool cloud shape that takes them up into here and then back down into there. But I would blue these shadows up, darken them up with a darker blue, and then throw a little bit of green over them. And I think that'll make a big difference. Okay, that's what I've got. Do we have any more? All right, so let's say we got a harbor scene and got some little mountains in the background here, and we've got a big marina kind of right here and another big marina right here, and it's kind of a dominant shape. Well, if you just had this alone and you had nothing else in here but water, what's going to happen is it's going to feel out of balance. So you need something to balance it. So how do you balance it? Well, one way to do it is, you know, you could put a boat up here and have this boat at an angle. You could do that. You could make it a lot bigger. You could do have a big sailboat, you know, part of a big sailboat here, and have, you know, something that is kind of creating a foreground. So see how that creates a sense of balance? And that's the kind of thing that you want to be thinking about. Now, the other thing is you could have a situation where you have, let's say you have a landscape. And so you've got a road kind of going in through here, and you've got, let's say you've got a big tree right here, and that big tree is kind of dominating. So you have a big shape here. Well, if you put something little back here, like a little house or a little tree, a little house with a tree, what that does is it creates that sense of balance. And so if you look at the fulcrum, you got something small here and something big here. And that's kind of how it works. So be looking at balance, because if you start thinking about balance, it will make a big difference. So maybe you've got a really big mountain, and then so what do you do here to compensate for this big shape? Well, maybe you have just a little something in here, maybe a little something here to just kind of set it off so that sometimes that road can fill in your balance. But look for a way to create some balance, and that will make a big difference. Okay, I think that's what I have to show you today, and I appreciate you guys being here. I do want to say that we have a couple of things coming up, and I want to make you aware of them. First off, we have a free gift for you. The free gift today is 97 Incredible Art Secrets. It's 2 hours of video. You can get it on DVD if you want to pay for the shipping, or you can get it instant streaming, and that is something that will help you. And it'll be a sampling of some of the videos we create at painttube.tv. So just go to Art Secrets, 97artsecrets.com/free, and make sure you grab that, and that will be a really good gift for you. We love these videos. I want to tell you also, we have Art Business Mastery, and we have now made the replays of Art Business Mastery Day available, and they're awesome. And if you want to make a little money with your art, or you want to make a lot of money with your art, watch that day. It's not very expensive. If you watch that day, it'll help you. We have about 10 guests, and they're really great experts. And it's not going to solve all your problems, but it's going to get you a long way there. So go to artbizmastery.com. You can also learn about our mastermind groups there. We also have the Acrylic Live is coming up. Acrylic Live is, the price is going to go up in March, about mid-March, or really close to I guess right before the March deadline. So we've got some of the best acrylic painters in the world, and you want to go and check that out. It's also really great because there are people from all over the world, potentially thousands and thousands of people on. This is one of the biggest ones we've ever had. And so go to Acrylic Live, even if you're not an acrylic painter. I'm excited about it because I want to travel with acrylic. I've been trying it. It's just so much less hassle. And then, of course, if you're going to travel, you got to travel to the Plein Air Convention. That's a really cool thing. That's in Lake Tahoe, and there is a price increase in March on that. It's May 2019 through 23. It's an amazing experience. We have big stages with watercolor stage. We've got the great Joseph 𝗙𝗲𝗍𝗶𝗱𝗆, the greatest watercolor artist in the world, I'm told. He's going to be teaching a pre-convention workshop. Scott Christensen, the great oil painter, is going to be teaching a pre-convention workshop. They're both going to be on stage as well. And we have a whole bunch of master artists, almost 80 of them, who are going to be teaching, so you don't want to miss it. pleinairconvention.com. Okay? All right. Well, I hope the feedback's been helpful to you, and thank you. We appreciate it. Thanks to my producer, Amandine, who put up with a lot of coughing today. and we'll see you on the flip side. Make sure you subscribe to this program. Hit the subscribe button. Go to YouTube. Look up Art School Live. Hit subscribe. It's going to help you. It's going to help us. We like all of that. And make sure you hit the like button or the share button so other people get to learn about this. Thank you for being here today. Happy Friday. Bye-bye.